Welcome, sweet friends, to the channel Frugal Money Saver. My name is Emmy. My husband is Paul. We're so happy you have joined us today. Today's video, we're going to share 7 major actions that we took throughout our lives that we continue to take now that has saved us thousands of dollars throughout the years and also enabled us to retire early. We're going to share those with you. We are going to get out into our container garden, show you how that's doing, and an update to the container garden that Paul implemented that kept our plants alive while we were gone for 10 days. And of course, we're going to get into the kitchen and share a warm weather meal that is super easy, minimal amounts of cooking, and really delicious. First thing we're going to do is take you down south with us just for about a minute. We love to capture some beautiful pictures while we're down there. This just allows us to ease into our video with some slow living pictures of nature and the beautiful outdoors. So let's turn the camera around and get outside down in South Carolina. We started our trip attending a memorial for a dear friend of ours, and this little cardinal sat with us while the service was going on. The moss in the oak trees in South Carolina never ceased to amaze me. So beautiful. Having our morning coffee and tea and looking out into our yard, we got to see the beautiful deer just playing. The Carolina sunsets are something to behold, magnificent in their splendor. The marshes of South Carolina are teeming with wildlife and natural grace. And then there's the beauty of the ocean. Nothing compares. So let's get into today's video. What are 7 things that Paul and I did throughout our lives to save money constantly, to try to be financially secure, to have less stress in our lives when it came to finances? And basically our goal was to retire early. And we did so at 55. The number one thing we did that we believe saved us a ton of money throughout the years was to remain in our starter home. Well, what people call a starter home. A lot of people start out when they're younger buying their first home, and it tends to be on the smaller side and it may need some DIYs to it. It's just not a very big grand house. We started out and we remained in about a 1,200 square foot home here in New York. We never said after a couple years, okay, let's move out. Why didn't we do that? Number one, we knew the payments to this house we could handle. We knew the mortgage amount. We got a set rate on our mortgage, and we knew we could handle that rate. And we also knew as time went on, this house would increase in value. So we always knew that real estate in our area would be a good investment. And yes, it was a fixer-upper, and we'll get to that in a minute. By not moving to a bigger home along the way has saved us thousands and thousands. So that was the first thing we did to make sure our mortgage was doable and the house turned out to be a perfect size. Number 2, the second decision we made was to pay off our mortgage early. Now this is important to note. You have to be careful with the mortgage you have if you decide to pay off early. Number 1, you have to make sure there is no penalty associated with your mortgage if you pay it off early. And yes, there are mortgages like that. And number 2, when you pay off your mortgage early, when you start adding those extra payments monthly, you have to make sure it's going to the principal and not the interest. You have to make sure when you're putting that extra money in, you specifically say that you want it off the principal, the amount of your home not the interest rate. And the third thing you want to note, if you do try to pay off your mortgage early, is to not be in a financial crunch if you do so. In other words, take money out of your emergency fund to pay off your mortgage. That's not a good idea. To take a cushion that you have for emergencies and for who knows what can happen and use it to pay down anything, not only your mortgage, is not a good move. You always need that cushion. So what we did is when Paul made overtime, we would take some, put it in a cushion, and then the rest we would take and pay down the mortgage. And that's how we were able to do it early. Because once that mortgage payment is out of the way monthly, well, that frees up a lot of money to go other places. Number 3, any home upgrades we did, we always paid in full and did them one at a time. So we never remodeled our whole house or did anything like that all at once. What we would do is put a new roof. We would upgrade our windows. We would upgrade appliances if they needed upgrading. We would paint, things like that. Maybe a new couch. We always did them in stages and we always paid them off in full. Again, it's taking that money and putting any extra away. It's prioritizing. And that's kind of what number 4 is. We never went into debt for pleasure. We never maxed out our credit card for pleasures, to go on a trip to Bali or to redo the entire kitchen all at once or whatever it may have been that maybe we wanted to do, but financially it wasn't a good decision because it would have depleted a fund and you never want to do that. And that's why we're frugal, because we take from other things that are not important to us and put them into special savings accounts so that we are able to make upgrades. We are able to keep our house running efficiently and smoothly. And being that we're going on to number 5, I'm going to say right here, this is our journey we're sharing with you. These may not be great ideas for you, or you may want that trip every year overseas or whatever it is that's important to you. But this is how we got to where we are, and we're just sharing our journey. And as we always say, you do what works for you, of course. Number 5, we always put our money into high yield CDs, or however high they would go at the time. Now, just recently we did a video on this because CDs were at their highest in many, many years. They were 5.25% interest. So we locked our money up for at least a year and a half. Once that money is in there, you really can't touch it because you will be penalized. They will charge you money if you pull it out before it's time. So the money that you're putting into these CDs, you can't use. You have to be okay with tying that money up. And that's what we do. We don't put all of our money in CDs, but we do put a major chunk because at 5% interest, that's a nice little bit of change you get back. And what we do sometimes, if there is something we need to do, when that CD comes due after a year, maybe just take the interest out when that CD is due and leave the main bulk of the money in, and then maybe do a home improvement or do something with the interest we earned, because basically it was free money. But again, you have to make sure with a CD that you are okay to tie up that money for the allotted time the CD is for. Those CDs have really been lucrative for us throughout the years. Number 6, we tracked our spending for everything. We've always done it loosely, but then when we were starting to get the inclination that Paul was going to retire, we did it faithfully and thoroughly. The year before he retired, we jotted every stick of gum, everything, and we still do that today. For us, knowing where our money is going, seeing where we're overspending, and then we can kind of pull it back. If we see our electricity is getting too high, well, what can we do to bring that down? Am I getting negligent about leaving lights on or the TV on and wandering away? Or heating costs or cooling costs? Are there other ways to bring that down? So tracking our spending was crucial in helping us retire early and making sure that our budget balanced, that we were not spending more than we were actually going to be bringing in. Number 7 is one of my favorites, and that is we watched how our parents lived. Now, not everyone had frugal parents. Our parents were both born in the 20s, grew up as children during the Great Depression. My mother and father lived that way until the day they died. Did they have money? Did they have assets? Absolutely. But they lived like they didn't. So it was very fun to watch them save money growing up. Even me as an adult would watch my mom when she went to the supermarket. She had more than enough money to buy whatever she wanted, but she would be very particular about how she spent it. So she was able to live a very, very comfortable life until she was 89. Paul's parents are the same way. They're still living in the same home they bought in 1968. So learning from the generations before us is so important. What we can learn from them is worth its weight in gold. How to be frugal, how to live simply, how to enjoy life every day, how to cook from scratch. All these basic things that unfortunately people are doing away with. But we, because we are frugal minded, and all you beautiful people are still doing and cultivating today. And we need to pass it on to the younger ones after us, constantly reaffirming to them that it's not about possessions. It's about living a good, simple, wonderful life. Not a life of deprivation. We're not talking about that. We're talking about living within our means, not going above budget, and basically enjoying what we have every day and counting our blessings for sure. So we hope these 7 tips encouraged you, and they were just a glimpse into our lives on how we manage to retire early and live a frugal life. So let's join Paul outside and see how our container garden is doing and what update he has made. Here's our container garden just a few short weeks ago. Let's take a peek at it now.
So you can see our container gardening is doing quite well. This is the soil that we reuse year after year and add all of our kitchen scraps to our compost and mix it all in together. It just keeps this soil really working good. Now we have 2 varieties of tomatoes. We also have peppers. We also have basil. And we're growing pumpkins in pots this year. Now our pumpkins don't grow very well outside in the garden. So this year we're trying them in pots and they're looking really good. So we're excited about that. This guy here is not doing too well yet. We'll keep an eye on him. But those are our pumpkins. Here's our basil. More pumpkins, different varieties. We have gourds in here also, so that's going to be fun. We already have some peppers coming out. Let's see, we get in there and look. There we go, some nice peppers. And we have a couple small tomatoes. By the way, we have drip irrigation now for these pots, which helps us in the watering. We did have to go away for about 10 days and it was too hot. This definitely kept everything alive while we're away. And it's quite interesting. You just have this little drippy nozzle here and there's a timer and it turns on and waters all the plants for us at a perfect time. So yeah, that helped us out quite a bit. Kept everything alive while we were away. Here's another tip for you guys. This is a stocking that I got at the $1.25 stores that you see popping up all over. And you cut these up and use them to tie your plants to your stakes. What's good about this is they stretch. They're strong and they hold the plant up, but they stretch. So as the plant grows, it's not going to be choked or too tight. It's just going to be able to stretch and grow with the plant. So this is a great tip to use these stockings that you purchase for $1.25, cut them up, and you can reuse them over and over. Basically, I take them, I cut them into strips, get them ready, put them in a bag, and this way I have them. As the plants grow, I can add more and more, and you can actually reuse these. If you don't tie the knot too tight, you can take the knot out and reuse them over. So this is just a great way to stake up your tomato plants or anything. If you have something growing in your yard that you need to be staked up, these work well.
Now what we're going to do is turn the camera around and get into the kitchen. We are going to make the most delicious hot weather meal. You're going to do a little prep work in the morning, very minimal. And by the time dinner time rolls around, oh my goodness. Let's turn the camera around, get into the kitchen. Good morning. The first thing we're going to do this morning while the kitchen is cool and it hasn't heated up outside yet is we are going to boil about 2 cups of egg noodles or any kind of pasta you want according to the manufacturer's directions until they are al dente. And before that, what I did was hard boil 2 eggs. And that's pretty much the only cooking we're going to do for this recipe. I drained the egg noodles and now I'm just rinsing them with cold water. And then I'll drain them again completely. Now I just have the cold noodles here and I'm just going to take about a teaspoon of mayonnaise. And I'm just going to coat them in this mayonnaise. What this is going to do is just prevent them from sticking together because these are going to go back into the refrigerator covered with the hard-boiled eggs, and we will continue preparing this meal in just a little while. So that's all you need to do in the morning when the kitchen is at its coolest. It's mealtime. What are we making? We're making a tuna pasta veggie salad with a little bit of a twist. This is going to be so good. I have 1 can of 5-ounce solid white tuna. This is Trader Joe's brand, and I love it because it has no salt added, so you really can taste the tuna. It is delicious. So we have a 5-ounce can of tuna, 1 grated carrot, a clove of garlic. Make sure it's a small clove or use half. Got about a 1/3 cup of chopped celery, 2 of the hard-boiled eggs we cooked this morning that were in the refrigerator. We just took them out. About a tablespoon of minced onion. If you have red onion, that would be great. We're going to need a little lemon juice, about a tablespoon of sweet relish or dill relish or chopped pickle, whatever you prefer, some cracked peppercorn medley or black pepper, and salt if you'd like to add salt, about a 1/2 cup of mayo. That is it. So we took the noodles out of the refrigerator as well, and you can see they didn't stick together. This worked out perfectly. What we're going to do, make this super easy. Going to take all these vegetables and add them right to our egg noodles. We're going to add the 1/2 cup of mayo. Now you can use Greek yogurt in this as well. That would be really tasty. Adjust the mayonnaise to your taste. If that's too much, too little, you do what works for you. I also will link this recipe down below, the original, but of course I tweaked it as usual. Going to add a tablespoon of that sweet relish. We're going to add about a tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. I'm going to add a little bit more because I think it's going to give a little bit of brightness to this. I've got our 1 small clove of garlic that I just minced. Raw garlic is strong, so you decide how much you want to put in. Here's our beautiful 2 hard-boiled eggs, all chopped up. This dish has got a lot of protein, so good. And then we have our tuna, which we're just gonna flake in. And I did drain the tuna thoroughly. Now I'm just gonna put some ground peppercorns And now we're just going to gently fold this together. But it really took no time at all. I'm going to cover it and put it in the refrigerator for about an hour so those flavors can all come together. And then Paul's going to tell us how it is. You remember, Paul is not a huge tuna fan, so let's see how this goes.
Okay, cold tuna and pasta, I guess a salad. It looks delicious. Now, I'm not a big tuna guy, but I'm starting to come back around to tuna, especially after filming this. Let me try this out. Get a little bit of tuna here, a little piece of the pasta. In this case, it's an egg noodle. Here we go. Wow. I keep saying wow. Again, the lemon is so bright on top of the tuna. The pasta holds everything together. Everything about this is just fresh, summer, hot day today. We were up in the high 90s today. This is just complete. Even the relish, there's a little sweetness to it. It has so much flavor to this. I guarantee you guys are going to enjoy this as well. Make this, bring it out to a party. Great on a hot day like today. The kitchen isn't heated up. This is good. This is definitely Paul approved.
As you saw, that was 100% Paul approved, and he doesn't even like tuna. He says that all the time, but I'm noticing he's starting to eat it a little bit more. So that's great. It is a great economical source of protein. Today's question of the day: what is a warm weather meal you turn to time and time again to feed your family, to feed yourself, that is yummy, economical, and just all around tasty for this time of year? I know I use my crock pot a lot. I know I use my grill a lot. We use a lot of salads. But motivate us. Share your favorite warm weather meal so that it not only encourages Paul and I, but our viewers as well. Thank you so much for sharing this time with us. We ask that you please give this a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't. Come on in and be part of our frugal family. We ask you to be well. We ask you to be safe. And above all, we wish you blessings. Until our next video, may God greatly bless you.